Hello there. Welcome to the Drifting Spore. I'm Steve. I'm down in the crafting dungeon again, or the dungeon of creativity, and I'm crafting up a new methyl hydrate stove is what I'm doing. My last methyl hydrate stove has been working great. I call it a loony stove because I use a loony to cover the fill holes in the center after it's lit, but I'll show you all that later if I'm successful in what I'm doing. So I've got a couple of beer cans, so I'm going to make a beer can stove. I've got a nice shiny loony ready to go, and that's my plan. So if you'd like to learn how to make a very efficient and super cheap stove, hobo stove, penny stove, loony stove, whatever you want to call it, if you want to see how that's done, how I do it, stick around. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, put this stuff away. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my Sharpie and I'm going to draw a line, an even line around each can. So I just put my Sharpie like that, or however, and then hold the can and spin all the way around, and that'll give me an equal line all the way around the can, and that'll come in handy in a minute. Same thing with this can. Just spin the can to get your even line all the way around. And there we go. That's step one complete. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to take the can that I'm going to use for the top, for the burner part of the stove, this part here, and I'm going to start whacking holes in it. I've got a little finishing nail. That's going to be annoying that, but I'm going to leave it on there because I want to save that for now. You can use a hammer for this. I find the rubberized handle of this tool here works good for poking these holes. You can also use a push pin. I've seen push pins used. So I want to find close to center of this can. A couple taps. There we go. That's one hole. So now I want 5 holes in this can, in the top of this. These are the filler holes. That's 2. Put another one over here. Don't worry about these holes being perfectly spaced or anything like that. They've got to be close enough together. And once this stove's burning, you can put a loony over inside of this and it'll cover these holes. That's the important part. Once you poke these holes, you can check. Yes, indeed, my loony is going to cover those holes. So, perfect. Now, we need to put holes all around the outside ring of this can for our jets. So I'm going to just start with 4 holes. Let's see, I've got those kind of in a square or diamond pattern. There's no rhyme or reason, but you just want to kind of make it somewhat symmetrical, I guess. There's one hole. So I'm going to go across from that hole, or try to, as close as I can. There we go. There's 2 holes. So now over on this side. Now on this side. By all means, that's not perfect, but that's close enough. So now you're going to put a hole in between all those holes. Once you've done this a few times, it It's pretty easy to do. For cooking and boiling water and stuff, I found these stoves to be really cool. So there we go. Now I've got a ring of holes all the way through, and really, I kind of want to put one more in between those. So we'll have lots of jets throwing lots of heat. Once we get this stove assembled, if we get this stove assembled, the final part of building one of these stoves, getting the cans to slide together, for me is one of the trickier parts, and I have had cans split on me when I try to do that part, but hopefully that won't happen today. So very quickly, just throwing holes roughly in between those holes that are already there. Thank you to my friends who drink and left me their cans so that I get to convert them into a stove. I think there should be one there. And I think we should put one here. And that should, no, and one there. Two more and we got it. There we go. That is all our holes. So we got plenty of jets around that. Now the next step. Let's have a look and make sure you guys are seeing all this. If I can get out of here. Yep, looks like you're seeing everything. Perfect. Gotta kind of crawl my way in. That's just my shelf shaking as I move. So now I'm going to use these metal snips to cut out these cans on the line that I made. But I got to get in there first. Those snips are too thick to get in, so I just use a fillet knife to get that started. And then I'm going to use my snips to cut this out. I'm going to save the top portion of this can as well, because I'll be able to make a bit of a cover for the stove when it's done. So now using my snips, should just really snip right around once up from your line. Don't worry about making it pretty at this point. Now you've got your can split. So now I can go in and make a nice cut line all the way around this can. Being very careful. This is thin metal and it is sharp. But I do want it to be nicely on the line. There we go. There we go. So that's the top section of the stove cut out. Good to go. Now we need to do the same to the bottom section. So that's this guy. I already poked a hole in this guy. So let's get at it. Exact same thing, just roughly get it cut in half. Discard that half. Now start carving, clipping into your line. Being very, very careful not to cut yourself. These snips kind of leave like an edge that isn't as sharp. So that's kind of nice. But this edge that I just roughed in to get these cans apart is sharp. There we go, there's the bottom cut out. So far, so good. Now, I have to add, so this is getting really close to complete now that I've got these two cut out. Looking good. I need to add a couple things. So, inside of this stove, I'm going to put a piece of yellow pipe insulation. So, I'm gonna look away as I cut this so that I don't breathe it all in. I'm just gonna clip that like that and stuff that right into this can. And then kind of, there we go. That's gonna keep the methyl hydrate from sloshing around in that can and help prevent any unwanted spills or anything. And I found it really helps. When I've built these without that, they didn't work as well. So yellow pipe insulation is all that is. Hopefully you can see that. And now, very important, you want to take something, pliers or tweezers, and you just want to turn this can in, your bottom can in like this, in a few spots all the way around. I'm using tweezers here. See how that's kind of making the diameter of the can slightly smaller. So just go around doing that. I've used other pliers and stuff for this too before. That's not looking too bad. And then the really tricky part. This is the make it or break it part. To try and slide the top over the bottom. You might have to make these tabs a little bit more pronounced, I think. Let me see if I can do it with these. So just grab here and twist. You want a pretty good twist on that. So this isn't going to be the type of stove that I would ever run just on its own. Like I would always put this type of stove inside of another can. That's what the water chestnut can is for there. So I would never run this just on its own, always inside another can, but we'll show you that later on, if I can get this together without it breaking. So now, see that's going in really nice. Now the outside diameter of this can is still going to be the same as this can. So we got to very carefully squeeze this together. And you really want to watch out for sharp spots. You got to be very careful not to cut yourself or push so hard that this all collapses together. Just gently, very gently pushing it together. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but my goal is to get this top lip over this bottom lip here. But it can be very tricky to do. If I can get it anywhere close, I'll be happy, I think. As long as it feels like the stove's sealed. And I have rolled the dice and kind of beat them together with my rubberized handle, and that's worked too sometimes. Once I get them together and they don't split, that's a little bit of a concerning spot there. Almost there. Slowly squeezing it together. There we go. That's starting to go down beyond that lip. Keep going a little bit more. So I really don't want this cover can to, like, it's dented there already, but I don't want it to split. That's what I really don't want. I don't think that's going to go very much more, and that's okay. That's going to work as long as it doesn't split. All right, so now what I'd do is just take my rubber handle here and kind of walk around this edge just to kind of turn this edge in just a little bit. And I can try beating on that a little bit to make that edge pronounced enough that I can roll it in, but if I can't, I can't. It's rolling in some. Yeah, that's working. That's rolling in. Pretty confident that at this point that the top can is not going to split on me. I've got it on there. It looks good. So I've seen people put high heat caulking around the bottom of these stoves. I don't recommend that. I haven't had any luck doing that. So I'm not going to do it. I haven't done it on my last couple stoves and they've worked just fine. So there we have that. That's the completed stove right there. Nice shiny loonie. So I'm going to fill that with methyl hydrate inside of this water chestnut cam, which I've just drilled holes through to allow air to pass through. Drop him in there. Light it up once it's full of methyl hydrate and see how she goes. So since we built it, we might as well try it. So let's pack all this up and head out to the shed. Oh, I was going to make I'm going to make a cover for this stove as well. So how I do that is very easy. Don't worry too much about this being too fancy because it's just going to kind of hold this stove together. And with my water chestnut rig there, I don't really even need this. Gotta be very careful not to cut yourself when you're playing with these type of cans. I'm just cutting this one along the hip of the can. Very careful, and that'll go right on top of there as a cover once I get this in. Or get that flat. If that wants to stay in there, that's great. It can. There we go. So there we have like a little cover, so you could throw an elastic band around that. Maybe twist this guy up a little bit so you can get them easy. There you go. Now if you put an elastic band around that, it'll hold your loonie there. All right, let's head outside. I call these a snuff cap, but I've never actually had it snuff the stove out. But maybe this one will be different. Maybe it will snuff it out. We'll see. Okay, let's pack it all up and head outside. And you know what? I could go for a cup of tea. So let's boil some water on this brand new stove and see how it works. Okay, let's get this stove. That's the cover. And that's the snuff cap I made. Get that off. Get the loonie out. Easier said than done. Come here. There we go. We got the loonie out. Come over there for a minute. So I've got a timer set up so we can see how long it takes to boil a Yeti full of water, which is in my pot. And I also am curious to see how long the stove itself will burn for. So two things we're watching out for. Fits pretty nicely inside my water chestnut can. Pouring this stuff is always difficult. I always spill some. So I just want to pour it in and let that soak into that yellow pipe insulation. Let it soak right in. don't mind if I spill some into the water chestnut can, like miss the beer cans, because that'll burn too, and that'll help heat the stove up. And the faster the stove heats up, the more efficient that'll work. Slowing down. No, it's still taking. I don't have too much in the bottom of that. Okay, it's slowing down, taking there now. It's used what I would expect, a normal amount of methyl hydrate. Okay, yeah, that's not going down any further right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to light that up. There we go. Going to give that a few seconds to get burning. And once it starts getting hot, I'm just going to chuck my loonie in, just like that. Make sure it's centered over your holes. And once that heats up, it'll start coming out the jets. So I'm going to put my pot stand on top of that, just like that. And I'm going to put my pot of water on top of all that. And I'm going to start my timer. And we'll see how long this takes to boil my cup of tea. One minute in. Burning nicely. Oh, he's starting to pump through the jets there now. It's puffing. Two minutes in, I can hear something tapping away in here. No bubbles or anything yet there. It's the stove itself tapping, I think. It's underway nicely. Nothing wrong with that. It's not super stable. Five minutes, 50 seconds in, and I'm starting to get a little bit of steam. Yeah, getting steam. Stove's really pumping now. That thing is making some heat. It's really blowing outside. So 6 minutes in, I don't think we'll be long now. Got bubbles starting in there. 8 minutes in, I've got good amount of steam there now. 8 minutes, 20 seconds. It's boiling there now. Not hard boiling, but boiling. I think if I had a little bit more space between the stove and the bottom of the pot, just another ½ inch, I think that would have made this even more efficient. When I hold it up like that, it just takes off. So I can use this stove in conjunction with my Ohuhu stove, and that will help give me a little bit more height. But there we go. I'd say that's hard boil there now. Let's have a peek. Yeah. Hard boil, 9 minutes. So that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'll get this nicely boiled water into my Yeti for my tea. There's a perfect amount of water. Nice and hot. How could it not be? Look at that. So now I'm curious to see, curious to see how long it takes for this stove to go out. Certainly puffing and making noises. I'll put my gloves on in case it explodes. Woo. I'll take my crossbars off now because I don't need those. So we're at 10.5 minutes. The stove's been burning now. I would say it's just getting swinging there now. It's really pumping some heat. Just past 13 minutes and it's still going strong. You'd definitely still be cooking on that. Wonder how long it'll burn. Okay, just approaching 15 minutes in, and it noticeably just started waning. Still usable heat, you'd still be cooking on that. That's 15 minutes. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but I can crank out breakfast in 15 minutes or less, I think. And if you're not done cooking, just give the stove 2 minutes to cool off, add more methyl hydrate, light it, and go again for another 15 minutes. So you're not really limited that way. You just got to let it cool down a little bit so it won't explode. Dump more methyl hydrate in it, and away you go. Just past 18 minutes. Stove's still running. Still going pretty strong. You'd still be cooking on that 18 minutes in. How long will it go? 20 minutes. Still going. Definitely would still, if I were frying something, I'd still be frying over that. No problem. Wow. 25 minutes in, the stove is still burning, although admittedly it's really close to going out now. Not much usable heat there. I mean, it's still hot though. I don't think you'd be really frying something up on that or anything though. But I mean, 25 minutes is pretty incredible. That'll make this stove definitely the longest running stove I've made so far. It's just about ready to go out there now. That's pretty cool. I can definitely cook anything I'd be cooking in the woods in 25 minutes. 20, right? I had really good solid heat up to probably 20-minute mark or so. That's really cool. And just wait for it to go out completely. There we go. That's basically the last of it right there. 27 minutes in. Pretty cool. Stop the timer. Amazing. Boiled water in 9 minutes. Also pretty cool. Let's wrap this video. Well, there we go. 27 minutes that stove burned. Boiled water in 9. And I think it would have boiled water much faster if I had it elevated, my kettle elevated a little bit higher above the stove. I think that would have made that boil way faster. And yeah, pretty amazing. So there you have it. That's how you make a pop can, beer can, penny stove, loony stove, whatever you want to call it, hobo stove. Very efficient little stove. I couldn't be happier with that. I'll be taking this one in the woods with me next time I go for sure. Yeah, this one's my longest running stove so far. I've had them run as long as 20 minutes before and usable cooking heat probably for 16, 17 minutes. So I'm pretty happy with this stove. If it breaks, I'll just make another one. I'll make another one even if it doesn't break. So now you've seen how to make it, you can make your own. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the video. And remember, folks, you never find nothing if you don't go look. Thanks for joining me. See you on the next one.